During my short time on this earth, especially during this whole pandemic era, and during the time where people have been locked inside it and everything else, I've really been thinking about what is the one skill that is required in order for an individual to be effective or impactful, or at least a high-performing individual that utilizes the right level of emotional intelligence in terms of what they do. And it's not an easy thing at all. It's not an easy thing to think about. But upon really sort of like scouring what I understand, what I've observed, what I've read, what I've watched, who I've spoken to, it's really become abundantly clear that it stems from what I call authentic clarity. What do I mean by this? Authentic clarity is getting to a space where you've been brutally honest to self in order for you to see clearly. And I believe that if you can't get to a state of authenticity, if you can't get to a state of really being able to understand why you do what you do and really align that in terms of how you express yourself, you're not going to be able to see clearly. It's kind of like if you're lying to yourself, if you tell yourself continuous lies, then you're adding fog to the glasses that you're wearing in terms of your lens. Your perspective is going to be distorted, and thereby you're not going to be in a position of really being effective. If you're thinking about efficiency and effectiveness, that really comes when you don't have to be thinking additionally about things that are distracting by nature. That comes from being in a position where there is a flow in terms of how you approach a situation, as opposed to being in a situation where there's a lot of energy being spent trying to work something out. Now, that's invariably going to happen in some way, shape or form, or some degree. But the more honest you are to yourself, the better. And the way you do this is really internalizing and understanding and picking up those micro and macro feelings and sensations that you get and leaning into those things to understand what that truly means for you as an individual. Authentic clarity means that you have a framework for making good decisions. That's where it comes down to. If you can make really strong, solid decisions, then you're in a better situation than most people. Now, it's not necessarily about knowing everything. We've been in situations where there is complexity, there is ambiguity, but you focus on what you can control, the locus of control as they talk about. You have a more proactive nature as opposed to a more reactive nature. And that stems from having the right level of, control, which is stemming in a sense of values, but two, being motivated to do what you're doing, which stems from that level of authenticity. And so that's how that works there. Now, if we think about clarity, clarity stems from, number one, making sure that you have your own mind. Your established set of attitudes are not interjected from significant people such as your parents, your siblings, your teachers, etc. You understand what you believe and what you understand for yourself, not because it's based on something else. Now, we can't necessarily completely get rid of the clutter, but we can be as honest to ourselves as possible. The next thing is understanding what is important to you. That's determined by your values. Looking back at your past, understanding what you want and what you don't want, and establishing what is important to me. Why is this important to me? And effectively making sure you act based on habit and behaviors in accordance to that level of importance. This is where you have your core values, you have your means values, and you have your ends values. Your core ones are the things that you wouldn't change for anything. Your ends values are the things that help you get to a specific goal or purpose in life, sense of purpose. And your means values are things that enable you to endorse certain habits, And so really this is about character. This is about how you turn those, values into principles, things that you are not going to change because these are the rules of the game. The next thing is having a sense of purpose, i.e. what is your primary aim in life? What are you trying to do right now? This can change, We're evolving human beings. But with that in mind, you need to understand, what's my reason for being right now and why? There are so many different reasons why we can do something. Sometimes we focus on people. Sometimes we focus on how it's going to make us feel. Sometimes we focus on how we do something, There are so many different versions of a why that can exist, as long as it makes sense to you. From there, you have your primary objectives that come off from your sense of purpose, and this gives you a direction which can then give you success metrics, things that you can use to measure specific things. Because if you understand the key functions, if you understand the key drivers or habits that are required for you to be a success or whatever that may mean to you, then there's a sense of clarity. And it's about having a deep level of detail and understanding in terms of what you're doing. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you have to write loads of things down, but you have to be clear. You have to be clear. The reason I say all of this is because I really love the coaching model. This is why I coach. And the reason I love it so much is because coaching requires you to follow the inquiry of the client. What does that mean? You have to have the right level of inner supervision, so managing oneself internally, and also pick up what's happening externally in order to truly understand how you move forward, how you navigate towards a destination. Now, this isn't prerequisited by any form of, reference or information or whatever it may be. You're using logic, you're using your experiences, you're using deep and effective and empowering questions and active and, deep listening in order for you to understand what to do next. This is what we have to do with self. And so if you're thinking about the number one skill that you need to adopt, it is that authentic clarity. And that comes from having that coaching mindset for yourself. Be a self-coach. Coach yourself to a position where you understand what the next step needs to be. Not because next man or woman is saying that's what it is. It's because you understand this is what makes sense for you. Now, you can get inspiration. You can get inspiration from these different people. However, it needs to come from you, because if it comes from you, there is that motivation that enables you to keep on going. So why is authentic clarity important? Well, like I stated before, it helps you make better decisions. We're in a situation where we feel like we can't make a decision. That's because we're hyperlogical or we're hyper emotional. There isn't a median or middle ground. And so if you have an authentic level of clarity, then it means that you're aligned to something that makes sense. And so you're following a certain path because you understand what's important truly to you, thereby helping you make decisions. The second thing is it helps you improve your productivity. What do I mean by this? Again, it links back to that efficiency that I was talking about. If you are efficient in terms of your thinking and the energy spent on what you're deciding, then you're going to spend more time doing the doing. You're going to be more productive. You're going to get more results, thereby giving you the feedback that you need in order for you to be, again, even more productive and effective. The third thing I'll say is that there is a reduced need for motivation because it's internal. You've probably heard of internal and external forms of motivation. And if we're thinking about hygiene factors and everything else, internal forms are where it's at because it's sourced from you. It's not sourced from this external force that may be carrot and stick, where it may be superficial by nature. This is what we want. And so this is why I always talk about authenticity or living by your values or whatever it may be. If it's stemmed from that, then you're doing what's important to you or what's fun to you, or that really caters to a certain sort of like desirable need that you have decided for yourself. The fourth thing I'll say is that it enhances your self-awareness and social awareness. If you're authentic to self and if you are developing or on the road towards getting clarity, you're going to pick up certain nuances and things that happen in your macro and micro environment. Okay, you're going to be just more aware of things. And so with that in mind, that awareness will lead to the fifth thing, which will lead to self-regulation and relationship management, because you've picked up these different data points and you've understood, okay, this is how I want to be or act for myself and or towards other people, thereby probably eliciting a specific result. You're creating a level of influence. You're creating a certain level of management and, dare I say, control. Okay, and so all of these things are really important. So when it comes to the one skill that you need to improve, the one thing that I believe that would be really helpful for the majority of people here is authentic clarity. Authentic clarity. I mean, I could break down what authenticity really is in terms of like the whole sort of like psychological world, but there's no point. I mean, you understand what it means to be authentic, to be your original self, you know. It's about authentic living. It's about making sure that you're comfortable in your skin. It's also about understanding, do I change when external factors come into my environment? What does it really mean to me? When it comes to clarity, it's having a clear sense of self. So self-concept clarity, as they call it. It's about making sure that you have clear goals, clear objectives, clear tasks, clear habits, clear understandings of the resources, the systems, the tech that is required in order for you to be effective. Understanding what metrics you need in order to know how successful you are, understanding what impact you want to make, understanding how you want to feel. Okay, it's not just all about numbers, it's also about how you want to feel. So Hopefully this has given you enough to understand what you need to do to be more effective as a human being, and thereby get the level of high performance that you deserve. Now, if you want to be in a situation where this becomes your reality, then click on the link below to check out my free webinar where you can understand this on a deeper level. And again, I talk about my 4 different pillars. I talk about all these different things that can help you become more effective. And if this is something you're interested in, then click on the link below. Now, if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.